Now we talked about what are the different types of files, the subcategories within them, and we got a basic overview of this. Today we are going to talk about how we can utilize those files, or essentially one of the first steps to begin the utilization of those files. Let me give you a situation. If you had to open a book and find a particular page, what would you do? Well, first you would go and take the book out, and then you would try and find the page number of the page that you were looking for. Similarly, in computers, when you want to access a particular file, you need to use something called open. This is a keyword. And the way this works is you assign a variable. In this case, I have taken F. This could be anything. It could be car, it could be dog. It does not matter. As long as it's a valid variable name, you can use it. Then I say is equal to open. Then I open parenthesis and write my file name. So that is the location where my file is saved. So normally, if you look at the location of files in your computer, it would say something like backslash user, backslash username, backslash folder location, backslash file name. Now, different computers have different way of doing this. I have written a simple way, and then we write a comma followed by the mode. I think it's not clear. Let me just rewrite it. R. So I've written R. Now, an important thing to note here is that your entire file name and the mode in which you're opening it needs to be within quotation marks, right? This tells the computer that this is the name and that is the mode. Okay, this is how we open it. But if you look carefully and if you remember a particular point that we discussed in the last video, you'll remember that the EOL character backslash n is also visible here, right? So if you look here, the backslash n is coinciding with the name of this hypothetical sheet that I have. What happens in this case? How does the computer evaluate it? Well, this might lead to an error. Because when the computer starts reading the name of this file, what it sees when processing it is backslash n and then ewsheet.csv. And when it tries executing it, it leads to an error. Now, the way you can do the same open statement while avoiding this sort of an error is add another backslash before every single backslash over here. Why? Because when you write two backslashes, it tells the computer that, hey, the backslash here is not to be evaluated as an escape character. It is supposed to be read as it is. But if you find that confusing, well, don't worry, there's one more way. There's another way to write the open statement. It is F is equal to open R, and then you open the quotation marks to write your file name. What does this do? Well, what this does is it tells the computer that whatever comes after this is supposed to be read as it is, right? It is supposed to be executed as it is. It is in raw format. Okay. Now you might have a question of what's the difference between this R and the R here? The R at the end of that statement is the mode in which that file is being opened. Now, there are a couple of different modes to opening files, and we will get to them shortly. For now, let's think of a question. Let's say I want to open a file called hello.txt. How will I open it? Well, you can use either of the methods that were discussed, but for the sake of this course, whenever we give a file name, just consider it as it is and that you are in the correct folder. Let's just assume that. So if that's the case, then you'll write F is equal to open hello.txt. hello.txt, comma R. Now, the mode that you open it in depends on what is specified in the question. Okay, let's move on. What happens when you try to open a file that does not exist? Let's say that I try to open a file hello.txt which does not exist. Well, in that case, the computer is trying to look for something that does not exist, that it cannot find. So it could not find the file, so it will give you an error called file not found error. Quite literally, it could not find the file. Now, when you write this with the read function, that is when you encounter this sort of an error. But when you try to create a file, you will not encounter this error. Now, there are ways to create files which we will discuss. If you are following till here, all well and good. If not, then now is the right time to pause this video and rewind and just go through it all again, because from here, this topic gets slightly tricky. Okay, let's move on to the file modes. There are three file modes that you will be using in this course. They are R for read, W for write, and A for append. Based off their names, you could um, guess what they are doing. So your read mode will be used to read the file. Your write mode will be used to write on the file. And your append mode is used to add things at the end. Right? So your append will take what you want and add it to the end of the file. Okay, pretty simple. Here's where it starts getting tricky. There are a couple of different modes, sub modes, if you prefer, that we have here. Now, the R, W, and A are used to operate on TXT extension files, so your text files. The extension that we didn't talk about last time was for binary files. Now, binary files have a different extension, .bin or .dat, one of the two. Now, when you deal with these files, bin and dat files, you need to add a specific letter in front of these three modes. That letter is B. So you'll write RB, WB, AB. So this says write binary, read binary, write binary, and append binary. Right? So it tells the computer that the file that you are going to be operating on is a binary file. Now, if these letters were not there and if it was just R, W, and A, you can assume that it's a text file. Okay. Now you may wonder, if I open a file with only R, W, and AX modes, will I be able to, let's say, write on a file I open in read mode, or read a file which I open in write mode, and so on? There is. So for that, you would write R plus, W plus, and A plus. What R plus means is, yeah, read and then write. W plus means that you can write and then read. A plus means append and then read. So yes, that is possible. Now, similar question to ask would be, are the same used for binary files as well? Almost. Once again, when we are dealing with binary files, we need to add a B at the end. Now, these are correct as well, or you could also write it as RB plus, WB plus, AB plus. Either of these two variations is correct for binary files as well, right? So all this means is read binary and then write binary and read, append binary and read. So these were the ways of opening a file. Now let's do a question. Let's say I want to open a binary file hello.bin and write and read it. How will I do that? Well, it's the same thing as we saw then. So it'll be f is equal to open hello.bin, comma, r plus. Is this correct? No, because the b here is missing. So it should be rb plus. Now that was opening files. How do you close files? Let's say you finish reading the book from the first example and you're done with it. So you just shut it closed. Well, a similar function is here as well. You literally close the file. So that function is the close function. To use that, you write f dot close. Now, an important thing to remember here, this f is dependent on the variable that you open it with. So if you open the file by some name, let's say uh, trident, trident. So then you would also write here trident dot close. So what's happening is you tell the computer, hey, go there and open some file, and I'm going to refer to it by trident. And this is what you're doing. Okay, now it's time to close trident. So that is the open and close, closing of files. Now, there's an important point to be noted here. Open is a built-in function, while close is a method used with the file object. So this trident is a file object, right? It is an object of the file. It's a file object. So these were the ways of opening and closing files. Well, in the next video, we are going to see how to actually read those files.